Hey there, everyone. This is chess coach Aaron, and I want to do another Grand Prix game. But I'm doing a series of them, but I'm only doing the beginnings of the game, roughly the first 10 moves. So I'm going to do another game, roughly only about 10 moves. Again, I believe for beginners, the first 10 moves or so, first 8, 10, 12 of a chess game are the most important, getting a good start. If you get a good start, hopefully you can finish strong. So strong start, finish strong in chess. That's part of it. You do your puzzles to help see tactics, to help finish games, and you work at the first 8 or 10 moves, and your openings get stronger. So we're working on the Grand Prix attack. One more time, it's Friday. So if you have your team shirt, it's Team Shirt Friday. You should be wearing it. This is the Chelsea Chessmates, one of the schools I work with. All right, if you have your shirts, you should be wearing them. Otherwise, let's get going. Grand Prix attack. E4 and good old C5. They're playing Sicilian. I play Knight C6. And I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I'm trying to keep the game closed and control D5. Don't want them to get an easy D5. All right, so Black has a lot of choices on move two. We've talked about several of them. E6 is one of them. So it means already the queen is aiming for H4. You have to keep your eye on that when you play your F4. It means they may try to get an early D5, small pawn moves, supports large pawn move, right? So you got to be prepared for that. And usually when someone plays an early E6, it usually means their bishop might come out through the center, not become a dragon bishop, as I like to call it. So a lot of stuff, a lot of information is given on even just move two. And that is what chess really is. In my opinion, it's a game of information. Nothing's hiding. It's all on the board for you to see. You just have to try to figure out what the information means. All right, so I don't have a target on C6 for my bishop yet. So I go along with the Grand Prix idea, and I make my snowplow, F4. And here they played A6. They're trying to make my bishop a little uncomfortable. And with D5, if my bishop's on C4, it becomes a target. And I can't go to B5 right now, right? They've just took that away. They might even play B5 right away. And that, again, could attack my bishop if it goes to C4. So I have to make a decision here. And notice Black's only making early pawn moves, but they're trying to force White to make a decision with their light squared bishop. Perhaps they know the Grand Prix attack. And there are many people who will suggest that you don't put the bishop on this diagonal anymore. It becomes a target and it's too hard to work with. Um, some suggestions are to make it your own dragon bishop on G2. So there's two ways to go about it. You can play G3 right away. They can play B5, expansion, bishop G2. They put their bishop to aim against your bishop. You play D3, making this very strong. So now you can play your knight, you can castle, and you don't have the normal Grand Prix attack, right? Your queen can't get through your own pawn on G3 to get to H4. Doesn't mean this is a bad position, just means it's slightly different. It's not a true Grand Prix. This is called the closed Sicilian period, not the Grand Prix attack. But you can still use Grand Prix ideas. Why not? Expansion on the king side and try to put a lot of pressure on Black at some point. Nothing wrong with that. So they may try to play D5. Why not? They can. So you do your normal development. And this is a position I've gotten into a few times when I tested this out. But I am trying to play pure Grand Prix, which means I'm not trying to play G3 and bishop here. But there's another way to also go about this, just to let you know. Now there I played G3 first, but instead you could play the knight out, see how Black responds. Why not get D5 if they can? That's part of their idea. And now we play G3. Our bishop's got nowhere useful to go along this diagonal. I mean, you could put it on E2, but I don't want to put it there for now, so I would play G3. Now they try to get the castling, D3, knight C6. These are just normal developing moves real quick. But they could, and many players, this is the most common idea right here, they go forward with tempo. All right, my knight is now has a great place to go back in E2. Notice, that's another reason why I don't like my bishop in E2. Can get crowded in here for White for a moment. But my knight can come back at some point. Once I move some of my snowplow forward, it can come back. So I'm not worried about it. And these two knights do kind of pin down this pawn, so it's very hard for them to go forward easily because you are targeting their d pawn. And a couple more moves, they kill b5, and now there's a move I really like, which is e5. And this really emphasizes the space on the king side that white can get. And this is very important. I mean, this is what we're playing for as white. So we can still castle. We can get in g4 later. Knight to g3. We can force an f5 with our rook behind it. And our queen can still move over here at some point, or even go 2 dark squares, depending on how our pawns move. So there's still a lot of options here. And black and white have to be careful about this diagonal, especially if black puts their bishop on b7, which they're probably going to do. But these are 2 options that you can play. But I try to stick with the Grand Prix. So when they play a6, I'm playing a4. Still ideas of putting my bishop on c4, though the bishop is very uncomfortable, I do admit. So a4, knight c6. Now that the bishop can't harass that knight, that's one of the reasons why they play a6. They play knight c6, knight f3, d6, bishop c4. And now they play a move that seems to happen a lot more. A lot of people play Sicilian, put their queen on c7. And we're talking about the open Sicilians, by the way, after d4 and c takes d4. This is the open Sicilian, and many of them put the queen on c7. It's a very active spot, right? But not necessarily always in the closed Sicilian, and not so early. I'm always happy to see an early queen 7 by my opponent when I'm playing the Grand Prix, because the queen on d8, not only does it guard h4, and we talked about that a lot, but we also, it protects and helps the d pawn go forward when it goes to d5. On c7, it doesn't help the pawn go forward. And now, later on in the game, if my knight ever goes to either b5 or d5, it's with tempo. And I love that, because maybe I get f5, this e-pawn trades, my knight goes to d5, free tempo, and it just doesn't seem like this is a great move, especially so early in the game. It doesn't really do enough. All right, so what are some choices? Good question. Well, there are a lot of choices here for black. See, knight f6, bishop e7, even g6, and knight g7, knight g to e7. If they're playing knight to g7, it's because they're still going to play g6. Bishop becomes the dragon bishop, fianchettoed, and the knight on e7 helps guard against f5. Why not? And by being on e7 with the knight now, it doesn't block this bishop. So whenever they put the bishop on g7, it's not blocked. So this is actually kind of what I see a lot, and it's kind of smart. And finally, on e7, it also helps finally get d5, a big idea for black at some point. So I do see g6 first sometimes, but I think knight g to e7 makes a little more sense, but it should be pretty obvious if they're doing it. This is where the bishop is going, right? Well, let's take a quick look. If they play knight f6 first, you can play d3, and I have done this sometimes, but it does allow black to actually, they could just play bishop e7 and castle, but it does allow them to play d5, and this can be annoying because it's attacking the bishop, and it's going to trade also on e4. And with the queen versus queen, black actually likes trading these queens when they can. It takes away all the Grand Prix attack, and we don't like that as white. So what are the ideas to stop that? Well, for example, they play, let's go back, knight f6, right? Whoops. Let's clear this up a little bit. All right, they play knight f6, not queen c7, knight f6. You can play d3, but I actually would play bishop b3, getting it away from this attack. And after bishop b3, let's say they get d5, they have it now. Now we can go e5, and that's the thing. We don't have a bishop being attacked. We can go forward, and we're attacking, and now e4 will be available for a knight. If they play something tricky-ish, like c4, we still have a safe place for a bishop. I still like attacking that knight. So this is pretty good. We're actually, even though I try not to move my snowplow early, we're doing it with tempo, and it's actually not a bad position. Let's say the knight even, they try to get tricky again. They're aiming for these 2 squares. Maybe they can get a queen over here. Who knows? Maybe they're thinking c4, bishop c5, again, aiming here. I mean, they could try, so knight g4, but after d3, I actually really like white's position. I've been in this position a couple times. The d3 pawn covers c4. So between these 2 things, I'm not worried about c4. And if they play d4, my knight still has that great place to go. I can chase this knight away, pretty quickly too with h3. And where's it going to go? Well, can't go to f6. It's definitely going to go to h6, try to come back. So you still can do your normal things. You can castle, you can go queen over, you can go to g3 or h4 with the queen. You have a lot of good stuff here, so I'm definitely not worried about it. So definitely, bishop c4 You have two places you need to run back to, especially if they're going to play an early d5. So if they play knight f6 supporting that, probably the best bet is to run back. You can do a2, but I usually do b3 here. All right, let's keep going. Bishop z4, they played queen c7, and don't like it. I played d3, normal Grand Prix development. They played b6. Not sure what they're doing with these two pieces yet. And castled. Now I see one of the pieces moving. Does that mean the bishop's going to e7? Well, they still could go to g7 with the bishop and g6. But again, I like this knight, not on f6 then, but on e7. So I would expect them to go to e7. And now because they played b6, I'm also expecting this bishop to also go to b7. So they're playing kind of on the third rank, waiting to go forward at the right time. All right, well, they allow me to get my normal king side momentum going, and I'm happy with that. Let them do all the stuff that they're doing over here, and that's fine. I'll get my king side expansion. But there is a little bit of a trick here. The trick is I don't like to actually put my queen over on h4 yet until they've castled. I don't want to waste my time because I've seen many tricky people actually castle long. Even in this position with all these pawns have moved, it's still a little bit annoying to try to get through if they're king is on c8 or b8. So real quick, we have to find what we call waiting moves. So one waiting move off the back rank, protect here. And by the way, if they castle long, I'm getting ready for b4, right? All right, they play g6. All right, they're putting their bishop on g7. Now I'm going to play queen e1, but I'm still not going to go. I'm not going to go to h4 until they've castled this way. But now I have a battery set up this way. These are what we call waiting moves, hopefully good waiting moves. And I'm supporting a b4 later if they castle this way. I can still put my rook here, and boom, kind of get an attack on the queen side if they castle that way. All right, bishop g7. Well, I got to find another waiting move, but I already said it. Rook to b1 and gets it off this long diagonal. Protects the b pawn, right? I moved my bishop, so it might need protection later, might. And it gets it off of a1, so I'm not worried about any mistakes with their strong dark squared bishop. All right, now they play bishop e7. They still haven't castled. What's another waiting move? Well, once in a while, the arch checks along this diagonal, and once in a while, I need to move my g-pawn forward. So king to h1, another waiting move. And finally, they castled. So now I play queen h4. All right, so we're up to move 13, and I'm going to kind of stop. And I really like white's position. This is a very typical Grand Prix position. And here, just to show you real quick, black has to be careful. I'm thinking about f5. My bishop going to h6. Knight g5, rook up, rook over, checkmate. These are some ideas. These are the type of Grand Prix ideas we normally do. And if black doesn't slow you down or stop you, you're going to go ahead and try to do them. Here, I think they know some of that plan, but they played h5 way too early. And I played f5. And you can kind of see white has a ton of the Grand Prix pressure. This bishop is still doing a lot of work. Many times I get to trade it for the c6 knight, but here that hasn't happened, and I have some pressure here. Can go either way. There are still these weaknesses here. At some point, if this knight goes on f6, I'll get in g4 perhaps. I can still go rook over now and pawn up if I need to. So we have a lot of stuff here. White has a very, very fine game. All right, I'm going to end the lesson. And hopefully you guys will be using the Grand Prix, get these good starts, have some fun with it. Hopefully you get some kingside attacks or some good pressure. That's the whole idea of the Grand Prix. No guarantee you're going to get it, but gain some experience and try. All right, everyone knows I usually end my classes, and I'm trying to end my videos with jokes. Here's another chess one. I don't always have chess ones. You get bonus points for chess ones. Why did the skeleton not play chess? One more time. Why did a skeleton not play chess? Well, this is an easy one. The skeleton had no body to play with. Get it? No body to play with. All right. This is Chess Coach Aaron out. See you soon.